Welcome back to Special Recaps. Today I will show you a Russian sci-fi film from 2020 called Invasion Spoilers Ahead. Watch out and take care. It's been 3 years since the aliens arrived on Earth unnoticed. The planet is securing its defenses with USA, Russia, and China leading the way. A new satellite is being deployed in the orbit around Earth meant to monitor deep space so that no alien object can approach the planet unnoticed. Again, parts. Suddenly, a shuttle deploys from it, heads toward Earth, and enters the atmosphere. Meanwhile, out in the ocean, a fishing boat drifts along as the crew works and chats. One of the fishermen looks across the water and notices the mysterious shuttle falling from the sky, but he keeps what he saw to himself. Soon, the craft can be seen moving underwater like a submarine. 4 months later, Julia is out jogging with her dog. As they arrive at an apartment complex, the dog suddenly runs off and ignores her calls. She asks the men with her to help search for him. Later, while sitting in a robotics class, her friend asks about some new discoveries from the lab. She quietly tells him that if she reveals any classified information, her security team would immediately step in. After class, Yulia's friend tries to confess his feelings for her, but she gently stops him, saying he'll be safer if they stay just friends. Her security escorts then guide them back to her father's car and drop him off there. He enters the building, and when security asks for his ID, it shows that he's just an intern. Meanwhile, Yulia and her dad are still driving, and he jokes with her about breaking her out and smuggling her to another country where she could lay low. She doesn't want him to get suspended. They arrive in a research laboratory of the Russian Ministry of Defense, where a robot is seen tearing through the doors and smashing a car. Yulia's dad talks to a scientist at the lab asking about. The scientist explains that it's some kind of biotechnology. The robot is being controlled by a human talking with them. Overcome, the general comments that it's a Russian extraterrestrial co-production. The scientist then explains that Yulia is the key to understanding how all of it works. Meanwhile, somewhere in the facility, Yulia is taking part in an experiment. The main scientist interrogates her about her encounter with the extraterrestrial spacecraft and monitors her reactions, not just her answers. When he asks her about her friend that died in the encounter, her heart rate spikes, and then again, when he asks why she helped the alien. Then again, when he asks why she helped the alien, she gets extremely emotional, telling the scientist to stop the experiment and let her out. He apologizes for what happened to her as she tries to break free from her restraints. As he keeps talking, the scientist encourages him, and suddenly there's a massive surge of power. Her father runs into the lab and pulls her out of the pool while Arkom is being escorted away, asking why he's being held back while she is free. Later, Yulia and her father talk, and she begs him to let her stay alone for a moment without guards or anyone watching over her. He agrees and leaves, then meets with a soldier, Ivan telling him that he'll have to work the night shift and change into regular clothes. That night, Julia is drinking at a bar. She spots Ivan and buys him a drink to show she knows he's following her, so he joins her at the bar. She offers him another drink before they leave, but a second man appears saying they need to go. The man introduces himself as Hawken and says, Julia needs to come with him even though she refuses. At first, Ivan and Hawken begin struggling, but Julia strikes the soldier with an object, knocking him unconscious. She and Hawken leave the bar and contact the alien spaceship Sol. It tracks their location and finds them transportation, leading them to a car with 2 passengers. It takes control of the automated car and starts driving. Sol talks to them through the comms, while Ivan catches up to them. The car manages to force Ivan back and drives away, carefully avoiding anyone on the road. So they have to fly away immediately. The car is speeding and almost hits a pedestrian, but instantly stops in front of him, telling the other passengers to get out. Hawken and Yulia continue riding in the car. Ivan pursues after them and shoots one of the wheels. He causes a car accident, but Sol tracks him from above and manages to save him. Ivan calls the general to tell him he lost them. Sol drives Hawken and Yulia to a remote place in the middle of the woods. She reluctantly walks in, but she's suddenly greeted by her dog. That's there. Yulia tells Hawken that she thought he was dead. It seems that he was the alien she helped in the previous encounter. He says that the previous time everything went wrong. They go inside the house and they talk about how he's been living on Earth. He tells her that he has adapted to life on the planet. Someone knocks on the door, and when Yulia opens it, she sees it's Google. She's angry. Even though that was what he tried to tell her, before Hawken tells her that he was supposed to leave after the first encounter, but he violated the protocol and stayed on Sol, close to Earth. They kiss and make love as Sol is seen changing its form. It turns into Ra the next morning. Yulia calls her dad and tells him that she's with Hawken. She tells him that she has to leave because she doesn't belong on Earth anymore and asks him not to tell. Nevertheless, the general orders his men to track her signal. Yulia walks back in the house where Hawken is waiting for her with breakfast. Meanwhile, a tactical unit has surrounded the house with Hawken and Yulia inside and is ready to storm it. General Lebedev tells them to stand down, but Ra intercepts the call and changes the general's command to shoot to kill. Command to take them out. The unit storms the house. Hawken fights off several soldiers before the two manage to escape. His ship is activated and waiting near the river. Hawken jumps in, but the unit follows and hits Yulia while she is boarding the ship. Hawken flies away. Suddenly, an order is given to launch a missile at them, but Hawken destroys it mid-air. The ship is still badly damaged, though, and it falls from the sky into the river. Hawken tries to contact Sol, but Ra tells him that Yulia must be removed before the ship can repair itself. He refuses, and Ra responds that Hawken must be stopped as well. The general and Ivan continue trying to catch up, receiving confusing messages that Ra has intercepted along the way. They soon discover that the space defenses are targeting the ship, leaving the general confused about who authorized the command. Helicopters rush toward the river, switching into attack mode and firing at the ship. Back at the facility, Artyom outsmarts his guard, sneaks inside the robot, steals it, and escapes. He reaches a bridge over the river and hears that a unit is pursuing the ship, preparing to bring it down. The ship glides across the water but is struck by two helicopters. It bursts out of the river and crashes back toward the ground with water trailing behind it. Eventually, it slams into the surface below. The helicopters move into position, receiving the final command from Ra when Artyom inside the robot suit leaps onto one of them and tears it apart. On the ground, the general reaches the ship and checks for Yulia, only to discover that she and Hawken have already escaped. Kilyarod, the vice premier, tells him that he is out of line and gets ordered to sit down. Then he asks the space defense to explain their actions. They say the orders came from the general. Recording is played where the general's voice can be heard giving the order. The vice premier orders the news to be played in the meeting where the devastation in Moscow from the chase is apparent. The media is blaming Yulia for what happened and play a deep fake video of her making her sound like a terrorist that's on the side of the aliens threatening the city. They reveal that not only the video, but the entire news program is fake, being broadcast from someplace else and not a TV station. The general tells them that the aliens are the ones doing it. He asks for retaliation, to which the vice premier says he needs evidence so he can confirm such action. General Lebedev asks for special protocols to be put in place in the meantime, saying that only Bitlov analog technology should be used for all of their communication. The vice premier agrees and preparations begin for the switch. Simultaneously, Hawken, Yulia, and Artyom get to the store to get water for her. Hawken goes inside to buy it. When he finds the right kind of water and goes to the register, the phones of all the people start ringing. Recognizes Yulia and informs a police patrol that's in her vicinity. About her, Artyom drives away as the police start chasing them. Ivan gets the same message while escorting the ship back to the Ministry of Defense. The fake message tells him the attack caused by Yulia has injured his son. All digital media gets swamped by Ra with the same information about Yulia. Making her public enemy number one, Google gets a visit from a police officer asking about Yulia. His grandmother sends the officer away, and when they close the door, asks where he hid his friends. They were in the closet. The next moment, Artyom and Hawken submerge Yulia in water. Hawken tells him that she's no longer human. He says, pain is changing her, making her extremely, if not dangerously powerful. Ra has calculated that her death might save everyone else from her power, and that's why it wants to destroy her. Later, Google and Artyom get Hawken drunk intentionally and decide to take him to the Ministry of Defense. Artyom gives Google no choice on the matter. Once they arrive, they're greeted by Yulia's father ready to kill them. Google breaks and tells him where his daughter is. He confronts Hawken and asks him to tell him the coordinates of Ra, which is known solely to him, and tells him that he has to decide between her and his people. Ivan tries to get in touch with his wife, but he can't. He sees the news about Yulia as the general walks in, telling his men to prepare an observatory and the satellite with the coordinates he got from Hawken. The general tells Ivan to get Yulia, but bring her to him directly, without informing anyone else. The observatory locates Ray, so the general contacts the vice premier about the next step. Seconds before it reboots. They will destroy Ra with a super-secret weapon that the vice premier pretends they don't even have, even though they do. The general convinces him that they have no other choice. Meanwhile, Yulia wakes up in the tub. Her wounds are gone. She gets ready to leave Google's grandmother's apartment when Ivan shows up at the door. He's driving her someplace, but she doesn't know that he thinks she's to blame for the attacks. He confronts her with the information threatening her, that if his son dies, so will she. The general gives the order to launch the special missile and destroy the satellite as well. They wait for the missile to destroy Ra and rejoice when it's done. But the general isn't convinced. He wants a full report and a visual confirmation to make sure the alien spaceship is destroyed. In the meantime, people gather on the streets and demand for Yulia's prosecution. Ivan is driving her through the crowd. He still doesn't believe her, but he eventually takes her to the ministry to her father and the others. Ivan is disappointed with the general and quits on the spot. Hawken uses a phone to communicate with Ra. It tells him that it is ready for retribution, since it doesn't believe humans are worthy of anything. The tower of the Ministry of Defense. Ra is angry at the humans for trying to use its technology to create weapons like Yulia. It creates a massive water dome around the area of Moscow where she is, and starts flooding the inside of the walls. The military tries everything, but they can't destroy the dome. They start evacuating people, only to tell them that their only hope is to go as high up as they can, remain on the roofs of the buildings. The general tells Hawken to grab Yulia and get her to the chopper on the roof, so he gets her and Artyom there and inside of the helicopter, but remains in the dome. Hawken comes back to the general and asks for his shuttle, telling him that he can try and destroy Ra if he can hit it with the shuttle. The general evacuates his men, but remains behind to help Hawken navigate towards Yer. The helicopter with Yulia and Artyom loses altitude and has to land, but it starts falling and the two of them jump out in the water. They are pulled on one of the roofs with the other people in the disaster area. The water keeps rising, and Yulia can't bear the thought of more people suffering because of her, so she gives herself up. She even asks Artyom to end it for her, and everyone nearby hears her emotional plea. Meanwhile, the general manages to get Hawken as close to Ra as possible before the floodwater rushes into the building and completely overwhelms it. Back on the rooftop, Yulia desperately wants everything to stop, blaming herself for all the chaos she's caused. Ivan spots her and moves toward her while holding a weapon. Artyom jumps in to protect her, but ends up getting badly wounded instead. The flood closes in around them, but Ivan hesitates at the last second, unable to go through with it. The massive waves finally overtake the area, while Hawken pushes the ship closer and closer to Ra at full speed. Beneath the water, Yulia's bracelet suddenly activates, sending powerful streams of water toward Ra as Hawken continues approaching it. Yulia then pulls Ray out of the water, and military helicopters immediately open fire after spotting it. She keeps forcing the ship farther away, until the military launches a missile that completely destroys it. Moments later, the floodwaters begin to pull back, and the survivors finally rise above the surface to breathe again. Plane and walks off with the dog. It's the general tracking a specific location, and when he gets there, he finds Yulia and Hawken. Yulia touches the water and a spaceship appears from below. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.